On a cold, rainy evening in Los Angeles, a young girl named Lily sat under a small concrete bridge near the Hollywood Walk of Fame. She was only 17 years old. 2 years earlier, her parents had died in a car accident. After that night, everything in her life fell apart. She had no close relatives, no money, and nowhere to go. The streets became her only home. Every night, she would look up at the glowing lights of the city and whisper the same question to herself: will my life ever change? Or is this how it ends? That same evening, a black car stopped a short distance away. A man stepped out. He wore a long, dark coat, a cap pulled low, and sunglasses, even though the sun had already set. Most people walking by didn't recognize him. But it was Johnny Depp. He walked quickly, trying to avoid the rain. As he moved through the crowd, something slipped from his coat pocket and fell silently onto the wet pavement. It was his wallet. He never noticed. Within seconds, he disappeared into the busy street. Lily saw everything. At first she froze. Then, carefully, she stood up and walked toward the wallet. Her hands were shaking as she picked it up. Inside, she found several $100 bills, credit cards, and an ID. When she saw the name, her eyes widened. Johnny Depp. For a moment, her heart raced with temptation. With this money, she could buy warm clothes. She could eat a real meal. She could even rent a cheap room for a few nights and sleep without fear. She sat back under the bridge, holding the wallet tightly against her chest. The rain grew heavier. Tears mixed with the water on her face. She thought about how unfair life had been. How many times people had walked past her without even looking. How many nights she had gone to sleep hungry. But then another thought entered her mind. A quieter, stronger one. If I take this money, I become the same as the world that abandoned me. Lily closed her eyes. After a long silence, she made her decision. She stood up, put the wallet inside her old jacket, and started walking through the rain. She didn't know exactly where Johnny Depp had gone, but she remembered seeing him walk toward a small private club a few blocks away, a place where celebrities sometimes entered through the back. When she reached the club, 2 security guards stopped her. "You can't come in here, kid." Lily's voice was soft but steady. "I found something that belongs to Mr. Johnny Depp. Please, I just want to return it." The guards looked at each other, skeptical. One of them finally took the wallet and went inside. A few minutes later, the back door opened again. Johnny Depp stepped out himself. He looked at the thin, wet girl standing in the rain. Her clothes were torn, her shoes were falling apart, and her face was pale from the cold. He took the wallet and checked inside. Everything was still there. Johnny stared at her for a long moment. "You could have kept this," he said quietly. "No one would have ever known." Lily looked down at the ground. "I know," she answered, "but I couldn't. It wasn't mine." Something in her voice seemed to touch him deeply. Johnny took off his coat and gently placed it over her shoulders. Then he asked the security to bring a warm drink and some food. While she ate, he sat down beside her, on a small bench under the shelter of the doorway. "What's your name?" he asked. "Lily." "Where do you live, Lily?" She was silent for a few seconds. Then she pointed toward the dark street. "Nowhere." Johnny didn't speak for a while. He just looked at her with a quiet sadness in his eyes. Finally he said, "Come with me." That night, he took her to a safe hotel. He made sure she had clean clothes, a hot shower, and a proper bed for the first time in years. The next morning, he returned with a woman from a trusted foundation that helped homeless youth. Together, they made a plan. Johnny paid for Lily to stay in a safe group home. He arranged for her to go back to school. He made sure she had food, clothes, and medical care. He never made a big announcement about it. He simply did it quietly, the way real kindness is often done. At first, Lily could hardly believe it was real. Many nights, she would wake up in fear, thinking it was all a dream. But every morning, the new life was still there. She worked hard. She studied late into the night. She stayed away from the old streets. Slowly, the fear inside her began to fade. 3 years later, Lily graduated from high school with excellent grades. Johnny was there in the audience, sitting quietly at the back so no one would notice him. When her name was called, he smiled. The same soft smile he had given her that rainy night. After the ceremony, Lily walked up to him. Her eyes were full of tears. "I don't know how to thank you," she whispered. Johnny shook his head. "You already did," he said. "The night you returned my wallet, you gave me something more valuable than money. You reminded me that honesty still exists in this world." Lily continued her education. With continued support and her own determination, she went to college and studied social work. She wanted to help children who were living the same life she once had. Years passed. One day, a young woman in her mid-20s stood on a stage in front of hundreds of people. She was speaking about hope, about second chances, and about the power of a single honest decision. In the front row sat Johnny Depp. When the speech ended, the audience gave her a standing ovation. Lily walked down from the stage, went straight to Johnny, and hugged him tightly. "You changed my life," she said. Johnny smiled and answered softly, "No, Lily, you changed your own life. I only opened a door. You were the one who walked through it." That night, as she stood outside under the city lights, the same lights she used to stare at from under a bridge, Lily finally understood something important. Sometimes life doesn't change because of luck. Sometimes it changes because of one difficult, honest choice, made in the middle of the rain. And that choice can open doors you never imagined possible.